In our previous video, we discussed whether rising global tensions could eventually push the world toward a larger international conflict. We looked at the growing instability across multiple regions, from Europe to the Middle East, and how rival powers are increasingly positioning themselves on opposite sides of global disputes. But today, the focus shifts to a development that has captured global attention. The conflict between Iran and Israel has entered a new and uncertain phase. And now, a major announcement from Russia is raising serious questions about what could happen next. Tonight, we break down what's really happening and why this moment could reshape the balance of power in the region. What exactly did Russia just announce? Why are global analysts suddenly warning that the Iran-Israel confrontation could expand beyond the region? And could outside powers be pulled into a conflict that no one actually wants? Because history shows something important. Regional conflicts can sometimes trigger much larger geopolitical shifts. So the real question tonight is simple, but incredibly important. Is this just another moment of tension in the Middle East, or the beginning of a much bigger strategic showdown? Tensions between Iran and Israel have existed for decades, but the rivalry intensified dramatically in recent years. Israel has long viewed Iran's regional influence and nuclear ambitions as a major security threat. Meanwhile, Iran sees Israel as a strategic rival and strongly opposes its role in Middle Eastern politics. These tensions have played out through cyber operations, covert actions, military strikes, and proxy conflicts. Instead of a traditional war between the two countries, the confrontation has often taken place through indirect battles across the region. But recently, the situation has started to look more dangerous. Military exchanges, political rhetoric, and strategic warnings have all increased, raising fears that the conflict could move closer to direct confrontation. This is where Russia enters the picture. Russian leadership under Vladimir Putin has been closely watching developments in the Middle East. Russia maintains strategic relationships with several countries in the region, including Iran. At the same time, Moscow also communicates with Israel on security issues. Recently, Russian officials made statements emphasizing their concern about rising tensions and warning about the risks of escalation. Some analysts believe Russia's message was meant to signal that expanding the conflict could have wider consequences for regional stability. Others argue that Russia is positioning itself as a potential diplomatic mediator, hoping to increase its influence in global negotiations. Either way, the announcement immediately attracted international attention. Because whenever a major power signals involvement in a regional crisis, the geopolitical stakes rise significantly. The Middle East is one of the most strategically important regions in the world. Energy routes, trade corridors, and global security interests all intersect there. When conflicts intensify in this region, the effects often spread far beyond its borders. For example, rising tensions can influence global energy markets, international diplomacy, and military alliances. Countries around the world monitor developments closely because instability in the Middle East can ripple across global politics and economics. That's one reason why major powers often try to prevent regional conflicts from spiraling out of control. One of the biggest concerns analysts discuss is the possibility of broader involvement. If tensions between Iran and Israel continue escalating, other countries might feel pressure to respond. For example, the United States has historically been one of Israel's closest allies. Meanwhile, Iran maintains partnerships with several regional and global actors. However, it's important to remember something crucial. Most governments strongly prefer to avoid direct, large-scale conflict. Military confrontation between major powers carries enormous risks, both strategically and economically. That's why diplomacy, back-channel negotiations, and strategic deterrence often play major roles behind the scenes. So what might Russia actually be trying to achieve? Several possibilities exist. One theory suggests Russia wants to increase its influence as a diplomatic broker in Middle Eastern affairs. Another theory is that Moscow hopes to demonstrate its global power by engaging in major international crises. And some analysts believe Russia's messaging is designed to discourage escalation, reminding all sides that the stakes are extremely high. In geopolitics, public statements often serve multiple purposes at once. They signal intentions, send warnings, and shape the behavior of other governments. Even though tensions sound dramatic in headlines, several factors still discourage a full-scale war. First, military conflict between powerful nations carries huge economic consequences. Second, global powers understand the unpredictability of large-scale wars. And third, modern conflicts often remain limited because leaders try to avoid uncontrollable escalation. This doesn't mean tensions will disappear, but it does mean that many governments are actively working to prevent the situation from reaching the point of no return. So what should we watch for moving forward? Several developments could shape the next phase of this situation: diplomatic negotiations between regional powers, security meetings among international organizations, and potential mediation efforts from countries trying to reduce tensions. Global crises often move through cycles: escalation, pressure, negotiation, and sometimes temporary calm. Understanding those patterns helps explain why events can seem dramatic one week and quieter the next. The confrontation between Iran and Israel remains one of the most complex geopolitical rivalries in the world. Now, with Russia making its position known, the international dimension of the crisis has become even more significant. Whether tensions continue rising or begin to stabilize will depend on the decisions made by leaders in the coming weeks and months. But one thing is clear: the world is watching closely. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think outside powers will help reduce tensions in the region? Or could their involvement make the situation even more complicated? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and respectful discussion is always welcome. And if you want more deep geopolitical analysis explaining the forces shaping global politics, don't forget to subscribe, because the next major development could arrive at any moment.